Good morning. Today is Wednesday, the 25th day of Teves. And we continue chapter 13. Indeed, today we complete the chapter 13 of Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe talks about the way the Beinoni serves God. The Beinoni being the intermediate person, the one who is in control of his actions, he's in control of his speech and of his thought, but is not in control over his evil inclination, meaning that he still has desires, or at least he can have desire. Potentially, he can have desires towards material things. So this is the Beinoni. And Alter Rebbe is going to speak today about two things. Number one, that the Beinoni needs to know his place. And he needs to understand that he's not a tzaddik. A tzaddik is one who completely eliminated the evil inclination. And he doesn't have any Yetzer Hara anymore. Different levels of a tzaddik. One who eliminated the Yetzer Hara, and the complete tzaddik who transformed the animal soul to one God. But the Beinoni is neither of them. And that's what Alter Rebbe is saying, number one, in this lesson, that the Beinoni needs to know that he's not a tzaddik, because sometimes he can get to a situation that he can mistakenly think that he's a tzaddik. And once he has that, once he thinks that way, then he lets his guard down. And that's when the ugly Yetzer Hara can come back and bring him down. So that's why point number one, the Alter Rebbe is going to say that we need to keep the guards up, never let your guards down. And point number two, the Alter Rebbe is going to say, is when we're talking about serving God, having love to Hashem, having the proper feelings to Hashem, by a Beinoni, we said, he can have that only during davening, only during certain times. So the question then goes, is that considered a true love to Hashem? So that's what we're going to talk about, the second part of this shir, of today's lesson. So let's begin with the first part of the lesson. There we go. So we're talking about the Beinoni, the person who is in full control of his actions, of his speech, and even on his thoughts. However, says the Alter Rebbe, Ach me'achar she'ara shebachalal ha'smoli bebeinoni hu betokfoi kesei ladetoi. Yet, he says, inasmuch as the evil in the left part of the Beinoni's heart is in its native strength, it is fully strong, just like when birth, craving after all the pleasures of this world. And is neither so minute as to be nullified before the good of the divine soul, as in the case of the tzaddik, nor has it been displaced from its position to any degree. So the evil side in the Beinoni is still in its full strength, and it's not nullified to the good side. The only thing that he does have control is rak she'ein lo yishlitu b'mshala lispashet be'evrei haguf, but merely it lacks the authority and power to become diffused throughout the limbs of the body. Meaning that the evil side does not have the power by the Beinoni to take over his thought, speech, and action. And how is that? Where does he get the strength? How does the Beinoni have the power to overcome the evil in that way? Says the Alter Rebbe, because Hashem helps him. Without God's help, he wouldn't be able to do it. Because the desires, the lusts, and the evil inclination in this world is so strong that we need Hashem's help to be able to overcome. And Hashem indeed helps us. So he says, because of the Holy One, blessed be He, who stands at the right hand of the poor man, helping him and irradiating his divine soul, meaning bringing the light to the divine soul, so that it may be able to prevail over the evil. Now, the Alter Rebbe goes back now to the question that he asked in the very first chapter of the Tanya. And the question was, that we say, there's a statement that our sages tell us that a person should never consider himself as a tzaddik. And even if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, you should consider yourself like a rasha. The whole world tells you you're righteous, consider yourself like a wicked person. And the first chapter, the Alter Rebbe asked, how could that be the case? How could one consider himself like a wicked person? That may get them depressed, not be able to serve Hashem properly, if you consider yourself a wicked person. And if you wouldn't get him depressed, then it can get him become very light-minded when it comes to serving God. Okay, I'm wicked, who cares? So I have no chance anyway, so I might as well do what I want to do. So how could that be a good advice to tell a person to be considered like wicked? So here, in chapter 13, the Alter Rebbe finally answers this question. And he says, when our sages tell us that a person needs to consider himself like a wicked, not consider himself a wicked person, like a wicked. And that is a Beinoni. Once you're doing everything that is right, you should still consider yourself like a wicked, meaning that you are like a Beinoni and the intermediate person who is in full control, doing everything right. But in the same time, you're like a wicked because you didn't completely eliminate the essence of the evil inclination of the animal soul. That still has potential power within you. And that's why you have to consider yourself like a wicked, knowing that you have to keep your guards up. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says now. L'chein nikra kerasha. Therefore, the Beinoni is described as being kerasha, like a rasha. The Maimer Hazal, as our sages tell us the statement of our sages. Even if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, be in your eyes like a rasha. V'loi rasha mamish. He shouldn't regard himself as an actual rasha, because the Mishnah says clearly, Al tei rasha b'fnei atzmecha, do not consider yourself a rasha. Elo sheyachzik atzmei lebeinoni. Rather, one should consider oneself a Beinoni, an intermediate. And should not believe, shouldn't accept the world's opinion, which would have him believe that the evil in him has been nullified by the good. For this is the level of a tzaddik. So don't believe that people actually, obviously, when they see the way you behave, they see the behavior of a tzaddik. People can't know what's inside your soul, inside your heart. They see the way you behave. You behave like a tzaddik, so they call you a tzaddik. But you, for yourself, never consider yourself a tzaddik. אלא יהיה בהיניו כאילו מהוסי ועצמוסי של הרע, ובתוקפוי ובגבורוסי בחלל השמאלי כסתילדתי. Instead, you should take the view that the essence and core of the evil is in its full native strength and might in the left part of his heart. Not having vanished or departed from him at all, ve'adrab, on the contrary. The animal soul only becomes stronger, just like anything else in the world. Whatever you do, you exercise, practice makes perfect. What you exercise, you become stronger. So the same thing is the animal soul. Animal soul, you're eating, you're drinking, you're sleeping, everything kosher, but still the animal soul becomes stronger with time. That's what Alter Rebbe says. On the contrary, with passage of time, the evil has gained strength because he utilized it. The animal soul considerably. In eating, drinking, and other mundane pursuits. So this is, we're talking about a Beinani, one type of a Beinani. A person who is a working person, doing, has business, whatever, but he's doing everything right. So you should know, keep your guards up. What about a Beinani who doesn't have, who is really completely doing only holy things all day long for years and years, studying Torah, praying? Says the Alter Rebbe, him too still should not fool himself thinking that he's a tzaddik. That's what the Alter Rebbe continues and says, Ve'af mi she'b'teiras Hashem cheftzoi, even if one's entire aspiration is in God's Torah, which is studied day and night for its own sake, this is still no proof whatsoever that the evil has been dislodged from its place. It's very possible. Perhaps rather, the essence and substance of the evil are in their full strength and might in its abode in the left part of his heart. Except that its garments, namely the thought, speech, and action of the animal soul, are not invested in the brain, mouth, and hands, and other parts of the body to think and to do that which is forbidden. And why is that? Again, because God has granted the mind supremacy and dominion over the heart. And therefore, therefore the divine soul in the mind rules over the small city, meaning the body, over all the parts of the body, making them the body's organ to serve as garments and a vehicle. To what? Through which its three garments, namely the thought, speech, and action of the Torah's 613 commandments, are expressed, meaning there are clothes in it. So that's the only thing they have, but not the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul is not changed. That's what Alter Rebbe says. However, in its essence and substance, the divine soul has no preponderance over the essence and substance of the animal soul. It doesn't have the full control in the case of a Beinani, except for during certain times, as we said earlier, during the prayer. Except in those times when his love for God manifests itself in his heart. be'itim mezumonim, and on special times, special occasions, as during prayer or the like, when you study Torah, when you have Farbrengen, you're doing, then the godly soul can have dominance. However, even when it does have the dominance, it's not completely transformation of the animal soul. It's only that the godly soul has its dominance in feelings towards Hashem, towards the right thing. That's what Alter Rebbe says. Even then, during those times when the divine soul gains the upper hand over the animal soul, it is limited to control, the preponderance and dominion alone. It's not transforming. As it is written, that says, and one nation shall prevail over the other. When this one rises, the other one falls. And when the other one rises, this one falls. What is this talking about? It's talking about the Rivka and his two children, Yaakov and Esau, when she was pregnant. And she was confused because whenever she passed by a holy place, she felt the baby want to come out. And when she passed by an unholy place, she felt the baby want to come out. She didn't know what's going on. And the prophet told her that's going to be two nations in her. And each one will prevail over the other, one at a time. And that reflects the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, the good inclination, the animal soul, the godly soul. That you cannot have love to God and something that opposes God at the same time. When you have the love to God, then you despise the other things. Thus, the divine soul gains strength and ascendancy over the animal soul in the source of strength, Gevura, which is understanding, Bina. Because the understanding creates the love towards Hashem. Thus, when the divine soul gains strength over the animal soul, doing the prayer, pondering about the greatness of Hashem, the blessed Ein Sof, and thereby giving birth to intense and flaming love of Hashem in the right part of his heart. And what happens then? And then in the left part of the heart, the sitra achra in the left part of the heart is subjugated. But subjugated doesn't mean that it's gone. It retreats. It's not defeated. It retreated, but it's not defeated. But the Beinani, it did not defeat the animal soul. But it is not entirely abolished in the case of a Beinani. It is only so. It is so only in the tzaddik. Concerning whom it said, my heart is void within me. But he eliminated. This is King David saying, he was in the level of a tzaddik. He eliminated the evil inclination altogether. Now he, the tzaddik, he despises and loathes evil with a consummate hatred, a complete hatred. If he is a complete tzaddik. Or without quite such utter hatred, if he's an incomplete tzaddik, as explained above in chapter 10, we said the different levels of the complete tzaddik, the incomplete tzaddik. The complete tzaddik has total utter hatred because he completely transformed the evil inclination. The incomplete tzaddik despises the evil, but it's not with an utter hatred and despise. But this is the tzaddik. Aval Beinani, it's a whole different story. The Beinani didn't defeat the evil at all. It only subdued the evil. But Beinani says, all the above applies to a tzaddik, but in a Beinani, the evil merely lies dormant, as with a sleeping man, for example, who can be awakened from his sleep at any time and reactivate his faculties. So too is the evil in the Beinani. And the Beinani, it is as if it were sleeping in the left part of his heart. When? During the recital of the Shema and the Amidah, when his heart is aglow with love to Hashem, causing the evil of the animal soul to be dormant. But then what happens later? Therefore, after prayer, it can be reawakened. In this way, the Alter Rebbe explains another thing he explained in the first chapter. First chapter, the Alter Rebbe brought the story of Rabbah. That Rabbah was the tzaddik of the generation and still considered himself a Beinani. He said to his students that he's considered a Beinani. And his students obviously told him, they proved to him, no, that it cannot be the case, that he's really a tzaddik. But the question is, how could he consider himself a Beinani? He knows that in entire life, he never has any desire to do bad. So Rabbah was considered himself like a Beinani who's constantly fighting. That even though he doesn't see the enemy around, but he thinks that the war is still not over. You know the story with this Japanese soldier, intelligence officer. For many, many years after the Second World War, he was still hiding. He was still, he never knew that the war was over. They had to bring his commanding officer to tell him that the war was over. Sometimes even a tzaddik can think that, yes, I don't have a fight, I don't see a war, I don't see nobody shooting, I don't see the Yetzer Hara coming, but he can still think that I am like a Beinani who's constantly praying and constantly davening. That's why I'm keeping the enemy down. So the enemy is dormant in a sleeper cell, but they can wake up. So that's why Rabbah mistakenly thought that he was a Beinani. He thought that the fact that he's full with love to Hashem does not prove that he's a tzaddik. That's what Alter Rebbe continues. It says, "V'lochein Rabbi machzik atzmei kebeinani after le pasik pomamigis." For this reason, Rabbi considered himself a Beinani, though his mouth never ceased from Torah study. Ubeseres Hashem cheftzei yom v'layla v'chafetzeitza v'chasheket. And his desire was in studying God's Torah day and night with a craving, desire, and longing. His soul yearning for God with overwhelming love, such as that experienced during the recitation of the Shema and the Amidah. It was therefore possible for him to consider himself a Beinani, for he appeared in his own eyes as a Beinani who prays all day. Ukemaim Razal, as our sages said, Alavai she'ispalel lodem kolayim kulay. Would that a man pray the whole day long? It would be, they said, Alavai. A good thing would be if people would be praying all day long. What does that mean, praying all day long? That means they would be in a state of love to Hashem all day long. So this is the first part of the shir. The Rebbe explained, we have to know where we are, who we are, even if we see that we have a good week, a good month, a good 2 months, and everything goes nice. We shouldn't fool ourselves to think that we are a tzaddik. We know that the evil inclination is always hiding somewhere, and we have to keep the guards up. Now, the second part of the shir, the Alter Rebbe explains that being that we know that the Beinani is in love with Hashem, but it's only during davening, and after davening, he can come, the Yitzhak can come up again. So the question is the love that is only during davening, and after davening can have love to something else, is that considered true love? Is this considered true avodas Hashem? We have to serve Hashem with truth. Love the be'emes. We have to serve Hashem with truth. So the question is, what does it mean, truth? Truth means, does truth mean that you're not lying? Or truth, there's a deeper understanding of truth. Truth really means something which is eternal, something that doesn't change. That is really truth. And if that is the case, then how could a Beinani be considered serving Hashem with truth? That's what Alter Rebbe is going to explain. That really truth is an ultimate thing. It has to be ultimate truth. But at the same time, in each level, there is the ultimate truth of that level. But the level of a tzaddik is a higher truth. But the level of a Beinani, he's using his own truth, his fullest potential. Let's see what the Alter Rebbe explains it. Now, this aforementioned love attained by Beinani at the time of the prayer, by virtue of the temporary preponderance, the strengthening of the divine soul over the animal soul, etc. In elegabe madrigas atzadikim oivdei Hashem be'emes la'amitoi ein b'chinas avezu nikres b'shem avodas emes klal. He says, if you compare this to the level of the tzadikim, then it's not considered true avodas Hashem. When compared to the standards of a tzadikim who serve God in perfect truth, in the truest manner of truth, emes la'amitoi, this love is not called true service at all. For a tzaddik, that's not considered true service. Why? Since it passes and disappears after prayer. Whereas it is written, the language, literally means the lips, fas emes, the lips of truth, shall be established forever, but the tongue of falsehood is only momentary. Anything which is momentary cannot be considered truth. So how could the Beinani serves Hashem, has love to Hashem only during this time of prayer, and after this he can have love for other things? How could that service be considered a true service? So Alter Rebbe, be'af al pikein, be'gabe madreges ha'beinanim, nikris avodatama be'emes la'mitoi shelahem. He says, nevertheless, in relation to the rank of the Beinani, this level of love is regarded as truly perfect service in terms of their level of truth, in the level of the Beinani. Ish kefi madregas ha'beinanim, in each man relative to his standing in the category of a Beinani, as we explained, there's many different levels in Beinani. Their love too, which they possess only during prayer, I term the language of truth, which shall be established forever. Meaning their love is true and permanent, though manifest only during prayer. Why is that? Why is this considered permanent? Says the Alter Rebbe, because potentially they always have the ability, the power to re-engage and bring it up again, that love that they have during prayer. Since their divine soul has the power to reawaken this love constantly, whenever it gathers strength during prayer, day after day. How? By means of spiritual preparations appropriate to each soul's quality and rank. And Alter Rebbe explains that the truth is something which is in each level according to its level. Midas emes midos shel Yaakov hanikra b'chiach hatichen hamavriach ben hakotzer lakotzer. The truth is the attribute of Yaakov. As the verse states, you give truth to Yaakov, titen emes leYaakov, who is called the middle bolt, which secures everything from end to end. What is this talking about? It says when they built the tabernacle, there was in the temple in the desert, it was built with beams all around. How did the beams hold? So they had a ring on the outside, well, one at the top and one on the bottom of the beam, and then you had the beam going across that connecting all the beams together. But then there was also in the middle of the beam, in the center, there was a hole, and that went throughout all. The Gemara says that this was they put in one beam, and miraculously that beam turned to all three sides of the tabernacle, and that the upper connection, the lower connection is compared to Avram and Yitzchak. The middle one, it says, is connected to Yaakov. Yaakov is true through and through. This is why Avraham had not all of his children were holy. Same thing, Yitzchak were not all of his children holy. Yaakov, all of his children were holy, because truth doesn't change. He's the level of truth which comes completely and goes together through and through. That is why he compares the level of truth, something which does not change. So, in spiritual terms, this means that the attributes of truth passes from the highest gradation and levels to the end, meaning the lowest of all grades. In each gradation and level, it passes through the central point of that particular level, which then becomes the point and quality, the standard of that level's attribute of truth. The attribute of truth is an abundant inheritance. It has no upper limit as it extends to the highest levels. And all levels, all lower gradations and levels are as nothing compared with those superior to them. As it is known to the students of Kabbalah, the quality that is the head and the intellect, the higher levels within the lower grades, is inferior to the soles of feet, the very lowest level within the highest grades. As our sages say, the feet of the highest surpass all those levels lower than them, including the highest degrees within those lower levels. So what is he saying? So he's saying that we're talking about the level of truth. And the level of truth is in each level accordingly. And the lowest part of the highest level is higher than the highest part of the lower level. So therefore, when we're talking about tzaddikim, that's a whole different story. Their truth is the way in their level. But in the lower level, the ultimate truth of the lower level is to maximize their potential. This is also what we say by Shema. We say, "V'aftos Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol me'odecha." You should love Hashem with all your heart, with all your might, with all your soul, with all your might. B'chol me'odecha, the word me'odecha means like with no limits. But the word, the way the Torah says, is b'chol me'odecha, with no limits, your limits. If you want to say something that it should be love Hashem with no limits, just say so. Say with love Hashem with no limits. But the answer is that the limitless, being loving, that the love should be limitless, is relative to each person. In each person, in his level, he goes beyond his limits. And the same thing here, says the Alter Rebbe, when it comes to the Beinoni, although he knows that he has the evil inclination, although he knows that the evil inclination can rise up again, but the fact that he uses his absolute maximum to serve Hashem and to love Hashem during prayer, and then he has in potential to be able to do it again the next day and the next time that he prays, that is in his level, is considered serving Hashem with truth. So this is the end of this chapter 13, the end of today's shir. And join us again at Hashem tomorrow, 9:10 a.m. And make sure to share this. Any questions we can take now?